Hello, hi, welcome back to Wine Reform. Today we're doing another wine tasting because it always feels really good to get a little bit more of a bearing. You know, have a little bit more knowledge about what it is we should be looking for in certain wines, and what better way to do it than to taste them all. But before we get started on that, I have something exciting to share. Remember how I said that Shiraz made me feel like I could play guitar? Well, I've been practicing. Guitar aside, it is time to taste some wine. Today we are tasting Laroque Cabernet Franc. You're probably wondering, Cabernet Franc? I've only heard of Cabernet Sauvignon. Cabernet Franc. Why have I heard of Cabernet Sauvignon and I have barely heard of Cabernet Franc? And to answer that question, it's because Cabernet Franc is a parent grape to Cabernet Sauvignon, and we'll get to that. It is a very dark grape. It is the third grape of Bordeaux. If you've ever gone to a store, a liquor store or a wine store, then you've probably heard of the term Bordeaux blends or Bordeaux style blend. So Bordeaux has a few key varietals which they use for their blends every year. Cabernet Franc is one of those varietals. As it is a red grape, it produces a red wine. It produces a light to medium bodied wine. And the reason for this is because it's typically grown in cooler climates. And as you know, same with the Pinot Noir. When a Pinot Noir is a varietal that grows very well in those cooler climates, Cabernet Franc is the same way. It needs a little bit of that chill. It can't grow in somewhere as hot as maybe the Mediterranean or close to there. It varies in flavor, depending on where exactly your Cabernet Franc was grown. And it can have very vegetal or vegetal flavors. It can have some berry fruitiness to it, and this comes from the terroir, but it can also have a very gravelly, minerally kind of quality. It can also taste a little bit like chili peppers. It has a bit of a kick. Oftentimes when wine experts are tasting a Cabernet Franc, they will sometimes mislabel it as an unripe Cabernet Sauvignon or as a Carmenere, or Carmenere? If it's mistaken for these other two grapes, it's not as common. And that is because not only is it one of the grapes of Bordeaux, it is actually a parent grape to quite a few varietals. If you've ever heard of Cabernet Sauvignon, by the name, and then it's named that for a reason, the parent grapes of that wine, or that grape, are the Cabernet Franc and the Sauvignon Blanc. It's typically something that you will find used blended with other wines or grafted with other grapes to create a new grape. It's not very common, especially in the States, to drink Cabernet Franc as a straight varietal. It is grown in France, parts of the US, such as California, Washington State, and Long Island, Italy, Argentina, and South Africa, and Canada. And in Ontario, they tend to actually produce it as an ice wine, fun fact. And finally, it is grown in Chile. This particular wine we are tasting today, we are tasting Laroque. Please forgive my pronunciation, I never took French. Cabernet Franc from the Cité de Carcassonne. That means that the grapes for this wine were grown in Carcassonne at Laroque. Carcassonne is a city in the south of France. It's kind of interesting because of its location between the Pyrenees and the Black Mountains. It not only gets the heat from being further south, closer to the Mediterranean, it also gets very cool winds. The grapes are grown in an area where they get hot, dry days and cold, cold nights. Laroque means the rock, and it is named that because it is actually a city where they have a citadel. Fascinatingly, the vineyard from which the grapes were grown that made this wine, that vineyard has been there since the 6th century. Really cool stuff. So how do they make wine at Laroque? They pick their grapes in September. They ferment them in temperature-controlled tanks for 20 days. They pump the wine 3 times daily. From what my understanding, that means they keep it moving. They age it for a few months and they bottle it in the spring. So we've established where this wine is from. The grapes were picked in 2017, so we have a 2017 vintage. It's typically recommended for Cabernet Francs that you wait 5 to 7 years before drinking it, but I'm impatient, so we're drinking it now. The alcohol content is actually really high for an old world wine. It is at 13.5% alcohol by volume. We have been talking about it, so why don't we just taste it? So let's open it. So when evaluating wine, you start with where's it from, what year did those grapes come from, and how much alcohol does it have. So we know it's from Carcassonne. We know that the grapes were picked in 2017. We know that the alcohol content is 13.5%. And the next thing we're going to do is to evaluate a wine is to look at it. You can actually get a lot of information from a wine just by the color, the opacity, maybe looking at how much sediment there is in the wine can tell you how the wine was made. It could also potentially tell you if it might not be good. Sediment itself is not a bad thing, but if it's from a rotted cork, then that's a bad thing, and you can sometimes tell. Let's look at the wine. Look at that gorgeous color. So yeah, it is living up to it being a medium-bodied wine. The color itself is beautiful. It is such a beautiful garnet. Look at that. That's amazing. Light to medium body and a garnet color. We're gonna go ahead and evaluate the smell or the nose of the wine. That is awesome. This wine. Wowie zowie. Oh me oh my. That's so amazing. Okay. Oh boy, if I got something fun to tell you. This wine right away. I stuck my nose in it. Bam! It smelled like chili pepper. I knew that that has been a thing for Cabernet Francs to have that sort of pungent chili pepperish aroma, but I wasn't gonna believe it until I smelled it. Right away, I got bam! Chili pepper scent, that strong green pepper, strawberry jam. So the fruitiness came last. Maybe a hint of some salinity. So now let's taste it. Ooh! I was getting a few flavors out of that sip. And I'm glad I took a second sip because I did get more flavors the second time. Now, it hit my tongue and I got tart cherry. Okay, cool. And then it hit the sides of my mouth and I got a zing of astringency. So I would kind of describe the flavor of this as tart cherry. Second flavor I got was kapow, slightly undercooked Brussels sprouts. The third flavor I got was, hello, I'm a chili pepper. And then the fourth flavor was kind of interesting. It was a bit like salt and iron. This wine did not have a long finish at all. It had a very short finish. Let's recap. Cabernet Franc from the city of Carcassonne. Grapes picked in 2017, 13.5% alcohol by volume. Nice, sort of very light-bodied garnet color. The smell was chili pepper, green pepper, and a hint of strawberry jam and salinity. The taste was tart cherry, slightly undercooked Brussels sprouts, hint of chili pepper, iron, and salt. And then the finish was very short. This is a highly pleasant, highly drinkable wine. I would be very interested to see how it would taste in a couple more years. So I guess I'm just gonna have to see if I can find another bottle of 2017 Laroque Cabernet Franc. In terms of pairing, I think this would work quite well with not only Mediterranean dishes, but perhaps any sort of roast. I think this would complement bitter greens very well. Bitter cheeses like extra sharp cheddar from Vermont. I think that would be really good. But I will say that this wine is giving me such strong academic vibes that I have the desire to read you guys some poetry while sipping a glass. This is not sponsored. So I will be reading you guys a poem from I Wrote This For You, Just the Words, by Ian S. Thomas. Now this poem is part of his section on hope. And the poem is called The Autumn in Their Eyes. You are not there, somewhere in the future, suffering for something that hasn't happened yet. You are not there, in a place where all your worries manifest. You are not there, somewhere in the past, reliving your old mistakes and regrets. You are not there, in a place where memories resurrect. You are here, right here. Hi! So thank you for making it to the end. Congrats, you're here with me at the end. We made this journey together and it has been a blast. I really enjoy tasting wine and I really love to share it with you guys. I think that wine is a beautiful thing that can bring together friends and family, and even if you have to do it virtually, like virtual happy hours, come on guys. Anyway, if you like what you're seeing, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, and then make sure to tap the bell icon. I release videos every Friday and every other Wednesday, although God forbid something happens and I release it late. If you tap that bell icon, you still know when I'm putting out a video. So yeah, it has been an absolute blast. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.